What's up, everyone, and welcome to today's edition of Free Tool Friday. I am your humble but oftentimes overly energetic host, Tyler S. Clark, and what we're discussing today is going to be Google Trends and how you can identify trends that are developing or have developed inside of your market and ultimately how to capitalize on them. Now, I've identified what I'll call just 5 cool ones that sort of came to my mind. I dropped them down in the description down below, and you can take a look at what those are going to be. But the key here is that this is a free tool. I want you to be able to use it and make informed decisions for yourself. So I'm going to show you a little bit of the ins and outs of Google Trends, but at the same time, empower you to be able to use it on your own and also kind of help break down what the data really means to you. So let's go ahead and dive into today's Free Tool Friday. As always, a comment down below, hashtag FTF or question means the world to me. So here we go. So when you're getting ready to do this, you're just going to go to trends.google. And typically speaking, you'll limit your search to the US. I mean, of course, if you're in a different market or targeting a different market, you can expand beyond that. And Google Trends is kind of cool because it'll show you some things that are developing. And one other thing that I'd actually like to just show you guys real fast is a newsletter subscription that I'm subscribed to. Some of you guys might be interested in stocks. I know we have a lot of financial planners that pay attention to this content as well. And so one of the coolest things that my buddy, who's a high-powered finance guy in London, one of the coolest things that he showed me was this particular newsletter. It's called Exploding Topics. If you're not already a part of this, just go to explodingtopics.com. And what they do is they will show you trends. They use Google Trends, and they will say, hey, here are things that are like literally exploding in popularity year over year. So they'll show you some things that you're probably not familiar with, like acne patches. I don't know what that is, but maybe there's an IPO I should be paying attention to, pre-ply. They show you some cool things. They break down why it's exploding. They give you some great data. So anyhow, this kind of triggered me to be like, well, maybe I should be looking at what the exploding topics are inside of the accounting, bookkeeping, and tax space and share them with our fantastic proactive audience. Sound cool? Sound cool? So let's go ahead and do that. So I broke out kind of what I thought were just 5 interesting topics to me. And I went ahead and preloaded some of this information. But I'll show you kind of roughly how to do this. So let's say, for instance, you're interested in a particular topic. Let's see, what's an interesting one right now? So let's think about maybe just like, well, I have a bunch of these preloaded, but let's just say like you're interested in like getting more into, let's do tax resolution because I didn't do that one. Tax resolution work, right? Let's see, like what is the popularity of tax resolution in the last 12 months in the United States? And so this will give you an idea of when tax resolution is people are most interested in looking at it. And needless to say, it pretty much spikes at the 100% mark when people are most interested in this particular area. This isn't like everyone in the world is looking at tax resolution, but this is the period of time in which it has the most interest. Well, it's right after April 15th. It's like, oh man, they woke up, it's May, and they're like, oh man, what am I supposed to do? And what's interesting is the people who are looking at tax resolution now as well, you'll see that there might be a little bit of a bump as well after July 15th because, of course, the extension of the deadline. I would expect it to have been higher, but I'm not surprised that the people who need tax resolution weren't really paying attention to new laws and regulations, if you know what I mean. So anyway, just some food for thought on this. And what you'll do is you get to kind of scroll down. You'll see interest by subregion, and it will also show you which of the related queries it's pulling when it's trying to identify what this is actually doing, okay? And also related topics as well. So let me show you some of the ones that I broke out for you in advance of this. And ultimately, which one we're gonna start with is our versus category. CPA versus accountant versus CFO versus bookkeeper versus enrolled agent. And I was curious because I wasn't sure, honestly, to a certain degree, which one of these was going to win, right? Which one of these was generating the most interest over time compared to the other ones. And I did not think accountant would beat CPA. I didn't. I thought most people are probably searching for accountants, and maybe a certain portion of the market is searching for CPA. And then I saw this, I was like, wow, CPA is by far the most searched for. And then I reflected on it, I said, well, that kind of makes sense. Would you really search for nurse or would you search for doctor, right? Or would you just search for a health practitioner or would you search for doctor? probably search for doctor. And it goes to show that this also makes sense. What I didn't expect at all was CFO to smash bookkeeper. I did not think that that would be the case. I thought, given how much bookkeeping is more broadly needed, I thought that ultimately bookkeeper would be higher than this, and I definitely didn't think enrolled agent would come in last. But anyway, just some food for thought for like if you're pursuing designations. If you're on the path to CPA and you're kind of getting like smashed up against the rocks a little bit, like my buddy failed his first test on the CPAs, like you got to keep going, man. Like it really matters. Well, here's some more proof in the pudding for that. And if we dive a little deeper into this, what's kind of cool is this data will be broken out in terms of like what were the related queries. Now, what's interesting about CPAs, since so many people are most likely applying for it, you'll see that the related queries under CPA are not necessarily even specific people searching for CPAs. And I think that's an important distinction to make, because you might look at that data and you might say, well, if I'm not a CPA, I'm not going to get any business. And it's like, well, a lot of these searches are actually more related to becoming a CPA as well as exam dates. So this is why it's important that anytime you see data, that you actually take the time to go a layer deeper on it, because it's easy to just go, oh man, I'm a bookkeeper. How can I ever compete against a CPA? And that's not really the mentality you should have. You should be thinking, well, what is the relation to this, right? And it's like, oh, interesting, right? Maybe there are other things that are worth taking a look at when it comes to what is causing this fluctuation or this massive difference in search volume. Similarly, if we look at sort of accountant, same thing, Big Four, chartered global management accountant, Accountant Connect login, 1-800-accountant, right? That's a big popular accounting brand. Fascinating that they're in the top 10. They're hustling to get to that level. Funny story, they actually approached my father years ago for some help. ADP, so you can see that when you really dive in to what's going on here. Ooh, look at this. Sean Parker. Who is Sean Parker, right? It's like, who is Sean Parker? Is he some sort of high-powered CFO? Non-executive? I don't really know who this guy is. Anyway, just, again, you find cool things like this and you say, what's going on? And you can ultimately expand your understanding of Amazon CFO killed. Ooh, I don't know what that's about either. So point is, and then here's a cool one, right? I actually saw these guys coming up frequently. Bookkeeper launch. Seems like if you're a bookkeeper and you're not buying Bookkeeper launch, it's like you should be. Like, I'm just going to say it, like everyone's raving about them. And this backs it up again. Bookkeeper launch is literally the top 2 things on related inquiries, up 100% to so doubling in terms of search queries over the last 12 months. Okay. And then enrolled agent, it's pretty much just the exam, which is weird because you'd think that in some way, shape, or form, that the enrolled agent people, the people responsible for promoting that, similar for CPA, the AICPA, you think that they would have a responsibility to drive more people, more awareness to the importance of being an enrolled agent, and that the first thing wouldn't be the exam. It would be maybe like why an enrolled agent is important, or like how to work with an enrolled agent. But these organizations, as a general rule, they don't seem to care too much about promoting the importance of the certification as much as they care about, the market's awareness of the importance of the certification, as opposed to getting the next person to buy into the certification, which I think is fundamentally a flawed approach. But hey, that's what happens sometimes. And hopefully they change that in the not so distant future. And if you're a member of those, that's your responsibility to literally nag ownership, the people who run this, the boards, and be like, this is unacceptable. We should be doing better. The market needs to be more aware of why this matters. That's your responsibility, right? And I'm here to participate in that riding of that wave. Let's and I wanted to do one other quick thing on here, because I just thought that this was really, really interesting. You'll notice I didn't put tax in here, because here's what happens when you put like tax. Okay, look at what happens when you put in tax. Tax literally just like makes all the other things so irrelevant. And this kind of goes to like the whole idea, like tax is a commodity. And I know the vast majority of you are trying to get away from that, and I get it. But to neglect the fact that the vast majority of the market is always looking for what is the most accessible service, and to not factor that in any capacity, I'll argue it can be a potentially a great grievous error So anyway, just food for thought on that. This was another one that I thought was interesting. What was the difference between CFO and tax planning? Now, the other thing I did on this is I made this over the last 5 years as opposed to just the last 12 months, because the last 12 months are kind of weird with COVID. So I wanted to kind of get more of a historical perspective on what's the frequency of CFO versus tax planning over from 2015 to 2020. And I did not expect tax planning to be significantly more searched for than CFO. I saw this and I was just like, really? Tax planning has a much higher emphasis than CFO services? Again, just food for thought when I was just like, that's a pretty interesting trend that, we hear tax planning, and CFO's almost a little bit of a fraction of that, but it sort of makes sense, right? Because tax planning has such a higher interest in the market than CFO services do, but it feels like they're oftentimes intricately related. One of the cool things about this particular search, though, is that if you are specifically targeting tax planning, wouldn't you be interested in the states that have the most interest in CFO services or the most interest in tax planning? Maybe historically over the last 5 years, wouldn't that be good information for you to have? Sure. So here you go. And so Illinois, ironically, and this is the highest level of CFO services. What? Illinois? What? Right? Like I read this. Virginia, I get, because Virginia, you're going to have DC, you're going to have some pretty serious people that are looking for CFO stuff there. But let's look at the interest for tax planning. Let's see what's the highest there. Kansas? And it almost doesn't even show for CFO. It literally doesn't show Kansas. And then also DC again also has a high interest in tax planning. I wonder why. Maybe high tax rates, right? Idaho, Hawaii, and Utah. I wouldn't, if you were to ask me before I looked at this, well, over the last 5 years, which are the states most interested in tax planning? I don't think I would have said any of these 5. Maybe I would have said Utah, but I definitely wouldn't have said the other 4. And again, just some interesting food for thought. And again, the key here is like what's included in this. Well, outsource CFO services is literally the only query, not like hiring a CFO, not how to become a CFO. This is literally the states that have the most interest in outsourced CFO services. Okay, guys, like this is important stuff. Like super important. If you love information like this, give me that hashtag FTF in the comment section down below, because the only way I know you want more of this is if you tell me you want more of it. If you don't tell me, I never know, right? I don't know. Maybe I say, you know what? They don't like Free Tool Friday. I'm going to put it off to the side. But I need that hashtag FTF in the comment section. Okay. And then down here, similarly, tax planning, New York City, ba-boom. Maybe high taxes in New York, maybe Kansas again, right? And then so you can kind of see what the various things are and then what is ultimately the most important ones. And how interesting is this one? What is tax planning? This is such a validation of how much all of y'all have been actively looking to market tax planning and getting the market, because you couldn't make this a 200% increase alone. You couldn't do that. The market is saying, what is tax planning? What are these people even talking about? So that would be a fantastic search term to bid on, write content around, and ultimately like, hey, look, you've got questions about tax planning. I'm the go-to expert in helping you to understand exactly what it is and ensure that you get the maximum value out of this incredibly valuable service. Here's exactly what tax planning is. Boop, 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 boop. There you go. Another strategy right there. Free Tool Friday. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about QuickBooks versus Xero, because Xero's the underdog, like punching up, right? They're like, yeah, we're going to take you down, you evil villain. How dare you? How dare you? We want to be the villain. But how big is the difference? It's huge. It's huge. Look at this graph here. Look at the difference. 55-4, literally 11x. More interest in QuickBooks Help as opposed to Xero Help. Let's do over the last 5 years out of curiosity, see the difference when we expand it out even more so. 3-48. So kind of still balanced, but man, you look at this, and I know that there are reasons that certain industries will gravitate towards Xero as opposed to QB. But man, it's hard not to go where the majority of the interest is in the market right now. But look at this at the end here. Look at how QuickBooks is trending down with Xero popping up. That might be a wave to ride, because the underdog, when they punch up, right, they want to support you like crazy to help get the market to adopt it more. QuickBooks, they don't give a crap. They don't care at all about you. They actively try and compete against you. So just some food for thought that these lines, yeah, we can maybe compare it to the same time last year, and maybe that's just normal where QuickBooks is going to dip. But I don't know. I think it's interesting that we look at this. There might be something to it, right? Similarly, what are the places that want QuickBooks the most versus the places that want Xero the most? Looks like Xero doesn't even have enough. Just Texas. You're in Texas, go with Xero. If you're not in Texas, don't go with Xero. Now that's a flawed data point. I know that, just making a joke. But again, I just think it's kind of funny that like Texas, live free, buck the trend. So it's just some food for thought. But let's switch it over to maybe these other designations outside of enrolled agent, bookkeeper, like our titles, but some of the supplementary ones like certified tax coach or like a profit first professional. When you have these designations, does the market really care? It doesn't matter a whole lot. And unfortunately, what's a little confusing about these graphs is you might look at this and you might say, wow, right? Like a profit first professional, there's 100, they spike a few times here. That's really interesting, right? But when you look at this and you just say there really isn't enough data for these queries, I go back to what I said even about enrolled agents. Okay, now enrolled agents are taking exams. And so that whole board and agency, all of them, they're trying to push people into that program. But does the general market, and I'm not here to like, just to be clear, I'm not here to like crap on these programs. I know they do good things. People really enjoy them. Great people run these organizations. I'm not doing that. If I put my name in here, or if I put dream firms in here, even though I don't have a certification, because I think generally speaking, most certifications don't matter that much. But if I put it in here, right, if I put dream firms in here, I probably wouldn't even compete that well against them. A little bit better. How about that? So I wasn't expecting that, to be honest. And so my point is that does the market even care about dream firms, right? No, right? Like as a general rule, like if you said I'm a dream firm leader, or you know I'm a certified dream firmer, we don't have that, of course, but the market's not there's not enough search justified in any of these things to really say, if I were to attach my name with this, does it matter? Does it push me over the edge? Probably not. Does the training help me with attracting and winning the businesses of my dream clients? Does it help me to better organize my tax planning strategies? Does it help me to prioritize profitability for my clients? Sure. But I don't think you invest in these things simply for attaching your name to it and thinking it's going to make a difference in whether someone buys from you or not, or increases the frequency in which somebody sees you. It just, again, like, it's just the data. It applies to me the same as it does to these other, again, very reputable companies. Nothing at all against them. Just trying to say, do the certifications mean that much? Not yet, but they could. They could. Similar to Xero's punching up. These guys are punching up. They want the market to become more aware of the importance of what it means to be associated with their brands. Just not there quite yet. They will get there. I believe that, though. What about payroll versus PPP, right? Some major terms, one of which just brand new to the market, right? PPP. And what does that really kind of look like? And is there still enough interest in it? What does it look like right now? And so needless to say, payroll kind of has some spikes around the quarterly timeframes when that stuff becomes due. But PPP really, of course, had its peak right in peak COVID when it was really fever pitch. And I know it's still serious, but again, really at the peak there. And then sort of as, if you were really on top of things when this launched, there was a lot of opportunity right there. That's not to say that there still isn't, but you can see that there's a reason it's slowly dropping off. And I think they maybe re-upped the ability to, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think Congress pushed through some more investment opportunities around this time frame. So there are certain things that will trigger these things to go back up. And when they happen, the question is, are you paying attention to it? And are you in position? Do you have systems in place to capitalize on it quickly and efficiently? Similarly, if we kind of come down here and we look at the interest for PPP, you can see what this is. What is PPP loan? Oh wait, this is, sorry, I skipped forward. PPP forgiveness. So like, how do I just like not give this money back, right? Like pretty ridiculous, but of course that would be number one. SBA, PPP, SBA, loan forgiveness. That's two separate ones for the top four. Loan applications, of course, is a big one. EIDL is also lumped into this. Funding, loan updates, Bank of America, forgiveness, again, comes up in the top 20. And self-employed is another one. So I just wanted to kind of show you what this looks like and how this was so powerful and even overcame payroll for a short period of time versus just strictly PPP. And this is like when big things happen in the market, you can capitalize on it, but you have to pay attention to what those things are because they will quickly taper off and then it'll go back to the norm very fast. Okay. So yeah, guys, look. That's Google Trends. That's Free Tool Friday for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I got a lot out of this when I was just like, kind of like, hey, you know, let me see what's going on. Let me know if you do any particular search trends yourself, maybe something more specific to your industry that you're curious about. And let us know if you got any cool results. Let us know what those results are and ultimately help inform a larger understanding of what the market's interested in, what's going on, what trends are developing, and maybe how we can become a little bit of trend setters ourselves. So with that being said, thank you so much for investing your most precious resource, your time with me. And as always, remember, only you can make your dream firm a reality, but I'm here to help you every single step of the way. I'll see you all next week and have a fantastic, fantastic weekend.